You are listening to the Game Like Training radio podcast where we talk about the PGA Tour, junior golf, college golf, golf practice, golf learning, golf psychology, and all things golf. On this show, we're going to share our thoughts, our beliefs that have really come from over a decade of being in the industry. And not only that, but we'll be talking to industry leaders, world-renowned academics, pioneering professors to bring you the most up-to-date information and evidence-based strategies that can improve your game or your golf coaching. Hey, I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Cook.
And I'm your co-host, Iain Highfield. And to get us started, I just want to say that we love golf and we love helping people. And it's that combined that has driven us to create this podcast. There's so much good information out there. We believe it's our responsibility to share this with as many people as we can. Today's guest is going to help us answer some of the most asked questions in junior golf. How do I get my child into a college golf team? And how do I get my child into AJGA events are questions that myself and Matthew are often asked. While we have some knowledge, we're not experts in this. So who better to answer these questions than a parent whose child has just completed this process? Morne Williams, whose son Robin has just committed to Florida State and is currently ranked 412th in the World Golf Amateur Rankings. Welcome to the Game Like Training podcast.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be able to be part of Game Like Training, and it's a very humbling experience for me tonight to share our journey of Robin on his path to his dreams.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for giving up your time. So, Morne, before we get into the meat of the questions, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Robin.
I'm a cricketer, and age 8 or 7, Robin came to me to say, "Listen, Dad, I want to play golf." So we started on this journey 8 years ago, and I always told him that, listen, if you want to play a sport, you want to be doing the best you can, and don't be afraid to go for things and dream big. So we started with the US Kids Golf, which was an amazing experience, and in his first tournament, under 8, he came second last, and it was because we worked very hard at it. And I said to him when we finished the round, I said, listen, let's go walk with the leaders to go see what they do, for us to know when we come back next year, we're going to be more competitive. And that's how our journey started. And I think that is probably our whole pathway that we've done. We always have looked at what the best did, what others did, what did the world number one did, what was his pathway, and that is how I then over the years create Robin's own pathway by looking at other people, how they were successful, and that's how we started.
Awesome. So Robin was in these events, the junior worlds, and like you said, he struggled, but he still had this goal, this dream that you decided you were going to support him with. What was the next step? So he's playing in these junior worlds. He finished second to last. He goes back home to Peterborough and plays golf at the club. What structures and processes did you put into place to help Robin and help him take these steps towards, playing in AJGA events and ultimately getting a scholarship to play golf at a great university, Florida State?
I've always made sure that when Robin was 10 years old, I always looked at what was the yardages that the world champs was over, whether it was 4,600 or then it went up to 4,800. And I wouldn't have let him play in many of our club events here at home, because those will be over 6,000, 6,500 yards. So I've created our own little course over the distances that we need to prepare ourselves for him, for his swing to develop. For me, it was important that he develop his swing. He doesn't need to be hitting the furthest, but we want him to have a sound technical base for him to swing and compete against the rest of the world. And we started there, and as the journey went on and as he grown and get stronger, the yardages went up. And when we started playing in the Junior All-Stars, which is the under 15 tournaments in America, the first thing I always look at was what was the distances of the courses, because I knew that if it's going to be a distance where it was too long for Robin, he's going to hit more longer clubs in shorter clubs. He would have played more par golf than under par golf, and I wanted him to always have that feeling to play under par golf and not feel he was trapped because of the distances. So another tip that I would love to give parents is look at the yardages of the current tournament that they plan to play. Look at last year's scores. Do you think that you can compete against the top 5 or the top 3 over that distance for your child? And be honest with yourself. Be honest that, yes, my child is good enough to play there. If he's not, play him in a lower category. If it's good enough, yes, compete against these guys. And as you then grow with his path and as you grow as a person, then it's important to be reflective. Always reflect on where his progress is. And if he's not there, be honest to say, listen, we're not ready yet, but we're going that way. And I think that's a very important point.
Morne, what impact has that had on Robin's game now?
Wow, I can only see how much he's now mature, and he's not. I mean, he's starting only to play in men's event this year or the past probably 9 months, and he feel comfortable playing against them. He's not afraid to compete against them. And secondly, is his swing. He doesn't need to jump out of his skin to carry 280 yards now, and that made a big difference. And I mean, for Robin doesn't even know his handicap because we've never have thought about a handicap. And because you didn't think about a handicap and you play off distances, you have always think about playing par golf or under par golf. But if you play off distances that is further than you're supposed to, then you need to think about a handicap. And then the handicap is handicap your golf. And that is what we found with when we play, especially in the UK, that the players are still thinking about handicap. Oh, my handicap is this. But effectively, you only have a handicap because you're playing off distances that is not good for you. And that is why we always thought about distances as very important.
It's a great answer. So you know that I'm good friends with Stuart Morgan, and I've been mentored by Stuart, and from a research side, he would look a lot of this stuff. But really what's standing out to me is Robin asked you if he could play golf, and then you built this initial structure that was based around appropriate length golf courses. And now because of this, Robin's motivated, and Robin isn't afraid to make birdies, let's be honest. He can make a large volume of birdies. And I think, unfortunately, if we do get some listeners from the UK, I do think the handicap stunts development in junior golf. So I would 100% agree with you. Morne, that's great looking at the development of Robin. So you mentioned previously about the AJGA Junior All-Stars. So this journey went from Junior Worlds, Robin asking to play, playing appropriate length golf courses, being motivated, and then you got him into these AJGA Junior All-Stars. Can you explain to people listening what is the AJGA Junior All-Star and how did you get Robin into those events? Because that's a question that we get asked a lot, and some people do struggle.
Wow, we also struggled to understand the system, but it was only after I started to study what you need to do. Well, the Junior All-Stars is the under 15 tournaments for in America, and effectively it starts in January, or I think sometimes in March, where only players with a certain amount of stars were allowed at that tournament. for instance, the one in January, I knew that the closing date was already a month in the 5th of December for the first tournament on the 12th of January. So I know that Robin needed to have a certain amount of stars by the beginning of December, which will then allow him to play the first tournament in January. So that planning from the 5th of December effectively start in August, because your last couple of Junior All-Stars events would have come in September and October. So you needed to plan like 3 months ahead for the next tournament if you want to get into the tournament to have enough stars. So what I normally have done was I've looked at last year's application, see what was the cutoff for the first tournament in January for the under 15 Junior All-Star. And I've seen, listen, it's like 24 stars that you need to, or 21 stars was the cutoff point. So I knew that Robin needed at least 22 stars if he wants to get automatically qualification into the event in January. So it started then in June already, where we played in normal IGGA tournaments to gain stars. I knew that, listen, I needed him to have 22 stars. You get 5 stars for a win, 3 stars for the top 5, 2 stars for the top 10. So I needed to know that these are the 6-7 tournaments that Robin needed to play to get to the 22 stars, to get to a tournament in January. But the planning already started in June, July. And then you will see that, okay, I can play in a couple of tournaments, and as soon as I get to the 22, I know that I'm okay for the first tournament, because the first tournament will then allow you to set up for the rest of the year in a Junior All-Star competition.
Wow. Serious planning, really. That's what I get from that.
Sorry, but that's just how we are.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Actually amazing. And just, I mean, I think you build just generally good habits planning like that, but and being that far in advance.
Allow me then to understand the next level, which was the AGGA normal events, and then the next level, which was the WGR ranking event. So I think if you started to understand the planning or the planning of the pathway for your kid, it's the most amazing, rewarding 1 + 1 makes 2 effect that you can have.
So Morne, I just have a question on, Robin was in these Junior All-Star events. Just explain to us how they went, and then how that opened the door into the AJGA, because that's the question that we're trying to answer here. Yeah. You know, parents.
And you can probably remember that your wife Sarah have taken Robin to these events, and we are still today very grateful for that. Yes, it's as you then grow into your first tournament in January, which was started 6 months before. He came top 15, which then allow him more stars to get to the March one, because March is another big one, and there's another big one in June. So you then set up yourself for the whole year for at least 3 Junior All-Stars, and then Robin won one of the tournaments as the Junior All-Star, and because he won it, he then got automatically what's the word now?
Exempt.
He got automatically entrance to an AGGA event. So that then opened the door to your next level of AGGA tournaments that you want to play in.
Great stuff. And then, so from there, tell us, because we're coming up more towards the current day, so tell us what Robin has been doing recently, and the pathway and how you created that.
For the AGGA or for the world rankings?
Yeah, tell us what happened within the AJGA and Robin's results, and then talk to us about what advice would you give to parents whose son or daughter is showing real progress, might want to go to a high-level D1 college, because ultimately, as Brendan Ryan would say, if you want to go to a high-level D1 college, you need a world golf amateur ranking. So, just talk us through that process.
I think the next the next big thing was the Junior All-Star Invitational in September, where all the top 20 of the Junior All-Star for the year gets invited, and that then lead up to the open events in the AGGA, and then your AGGA ranking is improving, and then your top 50 will get invited to the Ping International or the one in November at the PGA National.
The Polo.
Sorry, what did you say?
The Polo.
Yes, the Polo one. So the pathway gets better as your progress gets better, but what was for me important was to always look at Robin's progress as a person, and Robin's progress as where he is in his height, what is his driving carry, so that I can then know that, listen, that AGGA tournament will be just a little bit too far. And I think for the next year, our planning was to win one of the AGGA big events, which Robin did at Owensboro, because the yardages was only 6,200 and the normal yardages was normally 6,600. So I knew that the big bombers, it wasn't a big bombers course, it was a more strategic course where straighter hitters will have a better chance against the big hitters. And I think that I've made Robin such a, because he won in a playoff at Owensboro, and it then opened up for him to be in the top 50 of the ranking, top 40 of the ranking, which then get invited to the Polo one at the end of the year. And I think that pathway was good. But to be honest with the assessment of where my son was or where your daughter is, that you need to always sit down with them and to say, listen, were we good enough to compete against these guys? If we were not good enough, what do we need to do to improve to get to that next level, to get to the next pathway, to open more doors for you as you get along?
That's awesome, Morne. Very valuable insights for those people that are going to watch or listen, no doubt. Next question I have for you is, taking into consideration everything you've just said, how does it actually work when... or how do you actually get world ranking?
Well, the world ranking will only be if you play under 18 tournament. You need to get into the top 3 or the top 5 of that ranking, and then the WGR or the RNA recognize you as a ranked player. I remember Robin got his only ranking, and he won a world championship at 12. He was under 14, the top 3, top 4 of the world championships, and that didn't give you ranking. And because we were so focused on getting into the junior golf, it didn't give him really ranking. And the only ranking that he got was when he won Owensboro, and then he started to be a ranked player. And it's only then when you start being a ranked player that your tournaments is starting to count towards. If you play in a ranked tournament, it doesn't automatically means you'll be ranked. You must first get in the top 5, top 3 of that under 18 tournament before you can get ranked by the RNA.
So Morne, for the parents watching and listening to this, how do you find out if it's a ranked tournament, and how do you know where you have to finish? And then can you compare that a little bit now to the schedule that you've built out for Robin, maybe the last previous events that he's played and the events that are coming up?
Well, I struggle to find that answer, and that answer you get from the RNA website, the World Amateur Golf Ranking website. And what I've done was I will look at Joaquin Newman. What is that, number 1, isn't he?
Yes.
Joaquin Newman.
Yep.
And I would have looked at the tournaments that he played in. And you can see in the last 10 tournaments, he played in 8 pro events. And if you look at somebody like Todd Clemens, it is England guy, it's the number 17 in the world. He had played in MENA tour events, and more rank events. So the only way you will know that it is a rank event, it's when the AGGA will notify you on the website that it's a rank event. If you play in America, or if you look at the website, they will give you all the events that is now played over the world, and that will then tell you whether that event is part of the ranking events for that week or for the next quarter. If I look at how he's ranking, nobody knows this, Iain, but on the 10th of March, Robin had 180 days challenge to become world number one. So I needed to, he said, Daddy, I want to become world number one, because in August, Joaquim and there's about 10 players that will turn pro by the end of August. So if you look at the ranking, you will need about 1,200 points to become world number one. So he said to me, how will I become world number one on the 10th of September 2018? I said, okay, let me go work it out. So I will then look at all the tournaments that is scheduled on the website of the world, the WAGR.com website. Then I've seen, listen, there is tournaments that is G, F, D qualified, which gives you lesser points for a win or a top three, and then you get your A and B and elite events, which is the top events, and those only you get in when you are on the top 500. Like you'll get into the US Junior without qualifying if you're in the top 400. So that was our next goal, and then you need to look at tournaments that is A grade, B grade. For instance, Robin have played now in Spanish. He came tied for third. Men's event in Portuguese, he came 10th. And then he's playing Terracotta and in Sage Valley, which is all B graded events. And you know that if you come in the top 10, you will get very good points. And pardon, that is how we have calculated this 180-day challenge for him to become world number one. Well, as my father always say, if you reach for the stars, you can't make it, the moon will do. And that was always our approach on his pathway.
Awesome. Wow. Morne, can I ask a personal question?
Off the record or on the record?
I'll let
Depends
you pick.
how you answer it.
I'll let you pick. You don't have to share this information, but I imagine some parents are like, wow, I'm going to have to take out 7 new jobs just to cover this.
You mean 8 new jobs?
Are you there?
I'm here.
I thought you fell off your chair because you were about to tell us how much it cost.
I needed it for my 9th job.
So just roughly, advice for parents on the costs of this and what they're getting themselves into, and, you know, any help or funding, or how's it worked out for yourself?
Well, as you now plan that 180 days, we found out that if you look at, you can go at all the websites to see how much a plane ticket costs, how much will accommodation cost. And we found out that for the year from January till September, it will cost about £24,000, which is about $35,000 for Robin to go to the tournaments and protect his dream. So then we sit down with the wife and say, listen, how are we going to get to this? And yeah, it means that they need to sleep in Super 8 motel this week. And next week we get spoiled in Sage Valley. The next week we will go to Lytham, and then we sleep in the caravan. We like the caravans. Then it will come up that because my wife will always travel with him and I will work. And then that is how we plan it.
Okay. Perfect. So Matthew, do you think any more questions? Like if you were listening as a parent, would you have any more questions on this? I have one question that's not linked to the pathway, but I just want to complete, like, I want to get all the factual information for the parents and coaches that are listening. Do you think we've covered it all?
Well, I'll wait to see what question you asked to determine whether we've covered it.
Morne, what do you think? Do you think there's any more information that you can provide on websites and planning and, you know, all the structural things with regard to the process, or do you think you've covered it all there?
I think I've covered what we've done. I mean, there's a lot of other things on the website that you can check.
In a world where so much research has been done on early specialization in sport and the dangers of children burning out early when they play at a high level, losing motivation, dropout rates in the sport increasing. You know, it seems to me that the AJGA structure are bringing kids into early specialization at the age of 14 if they want to achieve their goals and dreams of going to college or of playing in AJGA events and competing and having this great experience. It's almost like you've got to plan and conduct yourself like a professional golfer at the age of 14. What are your thoughts on that? And how have you helped manage Robin through that process?
He went there, Morne. He went there. He knew it was coming.
I was opening myself for that can.
But look, Morne, you
looking back today, would I have done it for myself? Probably yes, because that's the person I am. Sometimes I look back and thinking things are too expensive. I mean, you need to pay 200 dollars for a registration on an event. You need to pay 200, I think, to be a member, 195, and then I just think that sometimes it's still a rich man's sports, and that makes me very sad because there's a lot of players that I know of that can't afford this, and it gets behind, and then things get so expensive for everybody. And is it worth it to specialize on in one sport? I think so, because that's the only way to become world number one, and you'll get, unfortunately, your good sides and your bad sides to become world number one. And you can ask any world number one that they need to sacrifice, whether it's from an early stage or whether it's from friendship, they need to sacrifice a lot, and their parents have 3-4 jobs. I know Roddy's parents had, and it would have been nice if the system that is now the AGA and other things was a bit less cheaper to attract these stuff. But that's just my opinion.
No, that's great. How does Robin deal with the external pressures of knowing his parents are investing their hard-earned cash in this? Do you think it affects performance, or, you know, do you have any? How do you help him relax and play his best?
I mean, I'm very honest with him. I mean, he's our only child, so it makes things a little bit easier for us. He knows he will book the flights. He will get an allowances for his golf that he needs to pay for. So that 20,000 that we need to pay for this year, he knows about it. He knows how much I get paid. He knows how hard we need to work to get there. And I don't think, because we don't mention it, but he knows it. And because we don't mention it, it doesn't really put pressure on him. He just knows. Every time he will say that I did my best. And then I will say that's That's the only thing I ask for, the best. And I remind him about the pathway that he's on. It's got nothing to do with other kids. It's his pathway. It's not the other kid's pathway. And because of that, he doesn't get discouraged. I mean, he didn't make the cut now in the French under-18s. And he felt bad, but then he said, Daddy, but I've worked harder. And I know that my pathway has been my pathway, and I will protect my pathway. And I think that is all that we as parents want to ask for our children.
That's awesome. Well, Morne, thanks a lot for that. I appreciate, and we appreciate your time and energy. We've answered a lot of questions, and no doubt we've had some incredible content to put out to our listeners and watchers. So that's awesome. So we'll wrap it up now. I think the podcast is going to be pretty badass, and hopefully it'll be out in the next couple of weeks. To keep up to date with us and the show, subscribe to our mailing list on gltgolf.com/podcast radio show. Follow us on SoundCloud, or just like any of our social channels. Twitter at GLT Golf, Facebook Game Like Training Golf, or Instagram at GL Training Golf. Everything we publish gets put out in some sort of way, shape, or form on all of them platforms. If you prefer watching, you can watch this podcast. It's on YouTube. Just search Game Like Training. You'll find us. We'll show up. So yeah, that's it. Again, Morne, thanks a lot for your time. Iain, we have a face for the radio, so maybe we might get a few laughs on YouTube, but I think this is going to be pretty cool.
I agree, and we have to follow this up. For anyone who's watched this all the way to the end, thank you. We have to follow this up by getting Mike Smith and Brendan Ryan on and talking about, obviously Robin's results are pretty exceptional. We have to talk about now how maybe people who are playing golf that one level below Robin or two levels below Robin can access into college. That just popped into my mind. So that'll be a great follow-up to this. But Morne, thanks for laying that down for us. Keep living the dream. I'll speak with you soon.
Yep. Thanks, buddy.
To share our experiences and our pathway with you guys.
Thanks, Morne.
Appreciate it. All right. Thanks for listening and tuning in. We'll catch you soon.
Woo! Got.
Well done, boys.
Beautiful. Thanks, Morne. That was awesome.